FIM, we would use the opportunity to see
What
what
room
we
did
could
you
get.
guys end up using in CH?
1157. It's actually the PT room, I think.
Oh,
At least I'm guessing it's the PT room. It might be child early education,
Yeah, it
I
looks like
wonder why
actually.
they
we'll
didn't
get
use
a
our new lab classroom. Meh.
Eh, I mean, that'd be cool, but we'll maybe next time. So they have asked, so one of the asks from kind of like FIM and leadership and stuff were around student success. They pulled a bunch of stuff for student success out of the handbook. I did review it because I wanted to know if there was anything we wanted to pull out from there. There's really not anything specific in there for sim itself other than what it can be part of clinicals and lab and like the definitions within the attendance piece. So I did not have them pull anything from sim. There wasn't anything sim student success specific in the handbook, like some of the other committees had stuff in there. But there was a question of whether or not there was anything that we would like to have housed on the actual Maricopa Student Success website for students related to lab or sim. Has anyone ever thought about that, or what are we thinking?
Um, I guess what are some current examples that they have for, I guess, other areas?
Well, I think like testing committee had, I think, some recommendations on studying, and they were looking at more resources. They had, I think, some of the guidelines around testing in some of the handbook that got removed. I forget what curriculum had.
So would it kind of just be like, I guess,
It'd be like general stuff.
because I guess sim is difficult to kind of
Mhm.
prepare. Because, like, what I do with my students, especially like semester one in
Mhm.
PN, our first sim, I'm walking them in the room, I'm showing them where everything is. And I mean, that's not a
Yeah,
universal thing across every campus. So,
no.
I mean, it would be kind of difficult. I don't know if maybe there's something that we would be able to put in that kind of emphasizes that, faculty and sim coordinators are going to be available. And I don't know, I guess we'll help them feel more comfortable in their sims. But I mean, we can't really post anything
Mhm.
like specific about our sims because every campus is different.
Yeah.
well, and maybe something very general like this is what simulation is, just that
Mhm.
definition of what to expect. Because there are people who will be walking in who have never been in a
Mhm.
simulation environment, like our return AP
Mhm.
students, our LPN students that come in, students that transfer from other settings, those
Mhm.
kinds of things. So it might be, kind of just a general statement on what to expect in
Yeah.
simulation, and that it's typically non-punitive. It's an environment rich in cues to help move the scenario along.
Mhm.
You'll have a facilitator, that kind of thing, like what the structure is, maybe something like that
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of what I was thinking. The most we could do would be what is SIM? Why
in
do we
general.
use it? Maybe
Yeah.
have a couple
Some of
links in there to references
the
on
NATSL stuff, it's like
stuff.
something like a statement in general.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. With maybe even just a note of that every simulation has its own like preparation.
Hmm.
So it's important to remember to look at your Canvas courses, your information from your faculty in order to prepare for SIM, kind of like the plug-in of a remember, prepare.
Hmm.
That's to be successful. Do the
Complete
preparation
your
work.
pre-work. Yeah. Yeah,
I was
they,
actually thinking about that with the pre-work,
mhm.
because that's something I do a block one, and then now this semester I do a block two, like reorientation to sim prior to their first sim as part of their skills day, which has been super helpful because they forget how to use the Pixis machine. They forget how to use DocuCare, especially if they've had a summer break.
Mhm.
So I'm doing an orientation for blocks one and two, but I always really push doing their prep work thoroughly,
Mhm.
practicing teaching somebody about the things in their prep work, like the disease process or the medications. If you can teach it to a patient, you'll probably do really well in sim because that's such a huge part of sim and just being a nurse in general. And then I also always hit on S bar.
Mhm.
So I'm really, really big on S bar. So I'm wondering if maybe we couldn't put some of those like tips for success in sim, like what you guys were saying, and then the prep work and then S bar and how to do an S bar and how to practice an S bar and things like that.
Yeah. Is there any links or things? Maybe so for the SBAR piece, I think we would need to put all of what we're using maybe
Yeah,
across and then look for common themes. So maybe we
sure.
can do that in our next one if everyone wants to gather what you use and then send it over to me so I can throw it in our agenda links for the next meeting so we can kind of look at it before we all get together.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because I'm assuming that probably most sims, there's a component of calling a physician, right?
Most,
Mhm.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think almost
Or
all of ours, they have to pick up the phone and
Okay. And then
Mhm.
they're usually using SBAR to talk to another nurse too. So yeah, okay, I'll see what I have and send it over to you.
Fabulous. Thank you.
I feel like we use physician, the students use the physician calling them, simulating calling them quite a bit actually, because
Nice.
I also tell my students when you have concerns, make sure questions, use all your resources. So they'll call pharmacy,
Mm-hmm.
doctors, whoever, charge nurse. So I do love that component, and S bar is so important. And I think even the first time I called a doctor, I got so overwhelmed. I don't even think I included all the things with S bar, and I felt so stupid.
Right.
But like, it's so
Mm.
important to get them prepped for that because I mean, when they call and they say, "Hi, I'm with this patient," and I'm like, "Who is this patient? What are they here for?"
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Where are you at?
Right.
I, what room?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So maybe
And
we could
that's
even
like,
add a blurb about that and that most simulations include a multidisciplinary focus that like it's
Mhm.
not just you.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I went to a simulation class at St. Joe's through Dignity Health. They do a
Mhm.
basics of sim class. And it's a whole 8 hour class. It was really good. But there were other like bedside nurses in that class, and they all gave us feedback that SBAR was one of the biggest things that new grads are missing and unable to do when they graduate. So I think it's a really good thing to hit on during sim. Like I always give them an SBAR, like I
Mhm.
have them do it themselves. I think it's a good thing.
Mhm.
It is.
The other thing that I notice is they don't write down, read back. And a lot of, oh, I'll remember that. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, you want to read
Yes.
that back to me? Oh, I didn't write it down. Can you say it again? And it's like,
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
write down, read back, write down, read
Yes,
back.
Yeah.
for sure.
Does anyone remember the Cardex when we did paper charting?
I loved the freaking Cardex. I wish I had my copy
An old card.
so I could
I
have
know.
them use it because it was so great.
Anytime you called the doctor, to have that was so helpful. So I feel like even though I didn't have like SBAR ready for the doctors, I had literally everything on that
Mhm.
sheet. And they tried to replicate it on Epic and Cerner, and it just isn't the
No.
same.
Well, and they, a lot of the facilities that I've been to recently, they have like an S bar that kind of represents a Cardex that the nurses fill out and they print that out and give them to them for like their report sheets. At some of them, at least. I don't think it's happening everywhere, but I'm like, why don't we bring back the Cardex?
I loved a
That was at
Cardex.
least one tool because you need something in your hand.
Yes.
Mhm.
I didn't think I'd miss anything about the old days of charting, but that I do miss.
I've missed being able to tell a story.
I have love hate with the new stuff, and I tell the students about some of it, but like the one thing I do know that I, at least personally, with charting in particular, you could literally read the story of that patient just by reading through the orders from front to back. Because you could see everything. You could see when it was started, when it ended. Like it was just very beautifully laid out. I wish the online systems represented that a little bit better versus this chunking of everything into
Yeah, not being able to see like some of the
column.
other orders or
Mhm.
you're right. It did kind of give a complete picture of their stay in the
Mhm.
hospital.
Yeah.
Because I mean, now going back through all the notes, like to get the physician notes is, or the
Mhm.
hospitalist, and then I have to go to the specialist. And I feel like, yeah, the old days
It's
of orders were better for that.
I definitely I don't miss finding meds on the MAR that were discharged like 3 days ago. So I had to write myself up and everybody else in the report that I gave the pill that should have been DC'd
DC'd.
3 days ago, but I didn't know until I got to my chart check that I overdid at 10 p.m.
The antibiotic was just DC'd 3 days ago.
I wish it was just antibiotics. I would have done a cardiac unit. The worst one was like, oh, we've been giving the amiodarone still. I mean, he needed it, but it's going to be in his system for so much longer now. But yeah, you could see what everything happened. So, meh, it is what it is. So yeah, I think that sounds like a good plan. Um, were there any other thoughts of something to add, or do we think that kind of sounds like a good plan?
I'll keep thinking about it, but I think that's a good start for sure.
So, and
Just success tips. Yeah.
and I imagine there will be times, and not imagine, from the last meeting that I had with the other leads, it sounded like we would have an opportunity every year to be able to update that. So they're trying to kind of, if you got a sense from the presentation at the beginning of FIM, if you're able to get on there, they're trying to update and really figure out a better plan to maintain all of our Maricopa websites so that they are up to date. So there'll be like certain days and certain months where we can submit requests for updates or things like that, and then they'll put them through, and then we'll be able to approve changes or not.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Hmm.
Could we also, I guess, not just for pre-work, but or at least let them know that, we have stuff like debriefs to
Hmm.
help them so that way they know like if they make mistakes that we have a whole session and we're dedicated to working through that with them.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
a good place to get feedback kind of not at the moment it's happening, but very shortly after, which I
Yeah.
think definitely helps with retaining what they're learning.
No, and
Yeah.
that's actually a great point. And actually,
Yeah.
when you brought it up, I'm like, yeah, I actually do tell them that all the time. It's okay. I want you to, if you're going to make a
It's not
mistake,
punitive. This
make
is
it
where you
here.
make it. Yeah, this is how you
And
do it.
I do warn them all that debriefing will happen, and
Yeah.
most of it's going to be questions.
Yeah.
Not that you did anything
What
wrong,
were
but
you
I need
thinking here?
you to talk and pull all the stuff.
And that thought that, what went well, what didn't go well, and what can you do better next time?
Yeah.
And again,
Mhm.
you won't kill anyone.
No.
Sometimes
I mean, if we really wanted to, we could we could kill him all day long. I can bring him back easy.
Right. And then
Hmm.
do you guys ever notice, at least with your, you know, first semester LPNs or block ones, that some of them don't really like they're participating, but they're not, I don't know. I think it's important to emphasize participation. I always tell them that, but then
Yeah.
inevitably you'll get like one or two runs where someone was kind of just like standing on the side and
right,
interacting,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know if maybe like also putting for like success tips that
Mhm.
you do need to participate in the sim. You need to participate in the debrief. So
Yeah. Active
because we need them to,
participation.
yeah, we need them to treat it like it's a real scenario.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's a good statement that we could add into there because it is important. It's what will make it successful. So, mhm. No, I think that'll be good. So we can add the references to links if they want, because we use best practice. It's part of what we do with it. One thing I did want to kind of let everyone know that something I found in one of the sessions, it was kind of interesting. I know some of us use observers, so I went to a session on Tuesday. I think was it Tuesday? Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know. One of the days. And they were talking about the use of observers and whether or not they really got anything out of the sim as well, because that's a question that pops up every once in a while. His study did show that yes, they did get the information, but something that he ended up finding out anecdotally when he was doing it, because he popped into so he ran the sim during like an OB rotation. Or was it an OB? No, he did a med surg rotation, respiratory failure, something. And he was finishing it up while they were in their OB rotation. So in order to finish up his study, he had to go to one of their like lab sim days to do the last like retention because he was trying to see how much retention they had either. And it was about 4 weeks or 2 months. I think it was the 2 months is the last one he did. So at 4 weeks, the retention was still there for both groups, observers and those actually participating, and they both performed about the same on this knowledge gained from those sims initially. But at like the 2 month mark, they started having deficit and they decreased in the knowledge piece that he had. And then he ended up watching the sim, which was a mag toxicity patient in OB that ends up in respiratory failure because of the mag.
Mhm.
And they did not catch, like they did not do the things they did in the
In the
respiratory
previous
failure
sim,
sim.
like it all connects.
Hmm.
It all continues on.
Yeah. So one of the things that they learned that he took away from all that is we need to be very intentional about, because obviously the respiratory failure was there, but also emphasizing they got it over here and they could have done the same things in this case.
Mhm.
To try to help remember to pull things through. Because we've all seen that. I think we've all heard it that students don't pull the information
If you
forward.
drag it with you, I always tell
Mhm.
them that in class.
So he
Yeah.
ended up like he's like, can I have a minute with them before they did their the end of their debrief? And he's like, so guys,
We did this.
we did this. And then he said there were a few aha moments, but there's more to do there. But obviously, one of the things that they found that we probably all see is they're not doing this thing. So trying to be more intentional about the wording and the pull through of some of these basic concepts into
Mhm.
everything and attaching it, reminding them that maybe we'll see more retention as they move forward because they are losing the information. They're not keeping it, not even in the Sims. Just like with
Oy
things like
vey.
didactic.
Mhm.
I know, right? A little disappointing. That was a little disappointing to hear that they still didn't retain the information, even though they physically were doing the things. They
Right.
were through like a whole high fidelity simulation, and they didn't apply it 2 months later.
To it,
It started
but
to
it was an
lose.
OB patient, so it's different.
Yeah, yeah. So I just
That's
thought I'd
why,
share that. It was one of those
And
big
it's
things that
and it's even worse when you have a block of time like the summer.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's that. I mean, and that's true in grade school, high school. I mean, it's the same with us, and they have that brain drain.
Mhm. So I don't know if there's anything we can do to help fix that, but it was
yeah,
something.
that's a difficult one to
Hmm.
that's a difficult one to address.
Yeah.
I do know because I spend a lot of time in the PN program, so
Mhm.
even health assessment when, you know, they're kind of not complaining, but saying how much they have to learn for the health, like the data collection, the
Mhm.
like physical assessment. I'm
Yeah.
like, if you know all of it, it doesn't mean you're going to be using it all of the time. If you know all of it, you can take that and focus it. So it's like, you
Mhm.
need to know all of it. Doesn't mean you're going to use it on every patient, but you need to know what normal is versus
Right.
normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd kind of be interested. So this is the assessment piece comes up a lot. I know on our campus when we're reflecting about the different sims from each block. And it made me think about an instance when I was a hospital educator where there was some kind of RCI, something happened, and then they tasked us literally with having to re-educate the students and then to include it in our like academy on a basic head to toe assessment. And then what is the difference between the basics and the
And
advanced
yeah,
assessment?
focused.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, that focused like all the things.
Mhm.
And then I started wondering, like, how are we actually, because I know we all had, like, there's different textbooks, there's different checklists, but what are we actually giving them? And most of the time when I talk to, at least what I've seen so far or heard, is even like in block one, when they're giving them the stuff, that it's almost all of the advanced on every body system. And I don't know if we collectively are really honing in on how to differentiate and how to do a basic assessment head to toe and then add in that advanced in the same way that I remember learning it. And I don't know if that is causing some of the same issues or some of the confusion with with the students and their inability to actually assess the patient. I don't know if you guys have heard or seen anything with that in
When you
particular.
say advanced, what do you mean?
So I think, so in my day, they called it the advanced. I think most of our textbooks call it the focused. Like if you're a respiratory problem, it's the focused respiratory assessment. You have to do all six of the listening and you have to ask this and this and this and this. Versus if it's a basic assessment, the patient's just here for a hangnail. You should probably at least listen to the four and get a baseline on the patient. Um, And it was again, it's just one of those things that I kind of was starting to wonder because I've not taught block one fully. I did some labs for them one time and I gave them all the resources that I had and pulled it from what I'd seen at the bedside. But it's just something that I've kind of wondered about how we are all approaching the learning of the assessment itself and then emphasizing it as we continue forward. Because I have heard faculty a lot just say, well, they just need to do a focused assessment. I'm like, cool. However, every hospital, when you take over care of a patient, they have to do a basic assessment that's a head to toe assessment as part of their standards of care.
So,
So it just made me wonder, how are we collectively looking at the assessment component and then communicating it to students?
so this is Marcel, and I do teach block one, and I
Yeah.
also do the simulation for all of block one.
Hmm.
So we teach them a very, like all of the systems and how we assess them for the complete
Hmm.
assessment. And the long fields, we actually do 6 fields in the front, the 2 lateral, and the 6 in the
Hmm.
back, and all the things.
Yeah.
But when I teach sim, I say you're only going to have 30 minutes in the room with this patient. Do you think you're going to do head to toe? And some of them think they are. And I'm like, well, or not. So let's go through what you looked at in the chart, all the notes, what you saw in their previous assessments, and what their labs look like, and what they came in and were diagnosed with. And let's make a list of what you think you would really want to get done in that 30 minutes. What are your priorities just for your 30 minutes? Keeping
Hmm.
in mind you have a 12 and a half hour shift and you will do a complete assessment. But what do you have to do in your 30 minutes? And so we make that list and then we talk it
Hmm.
through and we kind of agree or we go, is that really a priority right now?
Hmm.
And then I feel like that is the
Hmm.
biggest thing they get benefit wise out of the day is they learn
Mhm.
how to take what they've already seen when they do bedside report, put it
Mhm.
with what they see in the chart, and then say, these are the things that I have to focus on when I go in that room. But they know they have to do a complete head to toe by the end of the day.
Mhm.
So that's how I've been doing it. And then I leave it on a whiteboard so that if they get in the room and, they always have the patients with 50 questions that are not on their list of priorities. That's
Mhm.
what we do to them.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can always, when you walk through there and you open the curtain and it's maybe not what you thought it was going to be, or all the thoughts go out of your head, peek at the whiteboard. And it helps them to maybe stay on track a bit.
Yeah.
But that's how I've been doing it.
And
That
that's very similar to what we do. I've been helping with the block one sim,
Mhm.
and it's very detailed. They do a practicum that they have to do a head to toe assessment, give a med, and manage a problem. And that's their practicum. And
Mhm.
they have a whole hour to do all of that.
Mhm.
And so they come in knowing that they do that. But when we do sim, we do specific scenarios, then they have them do a focused assessment. So if it's a GI problem, if it's a respiratory
Mhm.
problem, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So very similar.
Okay.
Marcel, when you say you put on the whiteboard, because what I do when I'm running sim is kind of the same thing because we give them report on the patient like as the
Mhm.
whole group. And I tell them, after looking at report, before you guys even start sim, I want you to think about what your priorities are with this patient specifically.
Mhm.
So are you putting on the whiteboard maybe like if it's a sim with, I don't know, we have one with an infection.
Mhm.
Yes.
Would you put like skin assessment or
Mhm.
like, is that what you're putting as like the priorities that they can peek at?
So I start with the patient name and I write how long they've been admitted to wherever they are. So I know it's block one, but we make them acute care. So one
Mhm.
has been in the hospital 3 days and one 14. And we talk about how do you decide which one you would see first based on just looking at length of stay.
Yeah.
And then how many lines, tubes, and drains do they have? So they both have an IV, but this one has a Foley catheter. And they also they're on oxygen, 2 liters.
Mhm.
Um, and then I write just high level assessments and then concerns or things you want to follow up on.
Mhm.
Because it might be patient education or foreshadowing that you got during report that you think you might have to deal with, and
Mhm.
talking about who you want to engage. But I don't write all the systems on the board. I give them a brain sheet so all those systems are on there.
Yeah.
And sometimes they totally miss things, and that's just part of debriefing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. We give them an S bar for before sim when we do report, and I always tell them you can bring your S bar
Mhm.
in with
absolutely.
you to reference. So I didn't,
Mhm.
I mean, because the whiteboard seems like a good idea, they could just glance, right? But
Yeah.
So they have their S bar. I give them all kinds of stuff. They have a packet stapled together, which includes their place to take notes. It includes a blank sheet for doing SBAR, nurse to nurse, and nurse to advanced practice provider,
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff just to kind of help them.
Yeah.
Um, and then the whiteboard is one of those rolling whiteboards, and I just put it where both group, because I do 2 patients at a time and then they switch groups.
Mhm.
Both groups of nurses can look out there and see, okay, what was it I was doing? And they already know before they go in there what medications they're going to give, and they know it's a new medication for the patient. So, there's a lot of things to cue them on what they need to do.
Okay.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And I have pictures of my whiteboard in many instances. So if you want a picture of it, because a lot of times we'll do our debrief in another room and I have that picture in my phone to reference. So I have a lot of pictures in my phone just to show you kind of what we end up writing down.
I think that happens to a lot of us. I'm looking through
Yes,
my pictures. I'm like, I think I have more work pictures than
I do
home
too. It's very
pictures.
sad. Cats and work pictures.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mm. Okay.
Oh, by the way, are you guys in SSIH?
Yes.
Mhm.
because they have a special right now. I just got the email.
I probably
A
got
lot
the email
off,
too.
like $50 for 1 year. You can save up to $200 if you do 3 years at a time.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
through
have
the
to look at that. I
15th, I
think it's
think.
about time to renew too, so
Yeah, me too. That's why I put a little star on the email.
nice.
Yeah.
I really wish they'd at least pay for one of them.
Wouldn't that be nice? Because it is pretty expensive, but they have
Mhm.
some really good resources.
Yeah, well, SSH and an Axel are both like we have to almost be part of both of them because they talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's not just one, like the Axles are standards and they have a
Yes.
bunch of educational stuff on there. And then SSH is the tie-in for the everything.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, there's 6 of
And
us
they
in
refer back.
Mesa that are certified, so
Yeah.
we probably should divide and conquer. Like, I'll do this one, you do that one. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Maybe one of these years. Maybe we could
Yeah,
find a grant one
A
of these
group, a
days.
group
that would be
thing.
fantastic.
A
In
group
our spare
thing.
time.
Yeah.
Right, I know. I have all these ideas, and then I'm like,
Yes.
but
We just need a
what?
work wife. They could work on that.
We do. Well,
Yeah.
figure out how to clone ourselves better.
Yes.
Okay. The student success thing was the biggest thing that I thought we really, really needed to make sure and have some kind of discussion on. One, we need to craft something and get that in. So I'll take the meeting notes and try to put something together and send it out to the team for some thoughts, revisions. What do we want? So we can get that sent in to them.
Sounds good.
hmm I feel like there was something I was going to let everyone know, but I can't remember. Does anyone have any issues or questions or things that have been come up in the in between time? Things we want to ask of all of our buddies?
I'm still finishing getting our sim space organized. It's been chaos,
It takes
but
forever. I feel like it never ends.
I know. And the things that you miss the first time and then you go back in. But yeah, we have sim capture install in May, so that will be up soon. But we just got the furniture delivered, like the tables,
Oh,
and stuff
that's
for the
exciting.
control room.
Exciting
And
Yeah.
though.
right.
So congratulations. That's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, it's really neat to see that. So I haven't seen like a whole sim capture install. So
Mhm.
this has been really informative because I didn't realize all the, I guess, IT components and physical structures that they have to take into consideration before they can even come in and put in the sim capture.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that from when we had them put in our EMS recording system. It's insanity. The
And
amount of stuff.
I don't know if you heard, they got rid of all of our gateway IT people. So this was the
Oh,
worst
what?
time. Yeah, so district is handling our IT. I guess they did a mass layoff of every single gateway IT person, which
Why?
I have
No?
How
no
can you
idea.
do that?
That's
Oh,
so they're asking for feedback about, how we feel about this whole situation. I was like, you guys just you lost the people that know how to do sim. So I have a 3G man that I transferred over to respiratory because we weren't really using him. And
Yeah.
I told them, I said, you need to install Leap on a desktop computer over there. And they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, beats me. I said, our old IT knew how to do it. I was like,
Like
you're
I
gonna
know how to do it,
have
but
to.
Leap is actually a little more complicated
Yes.
because the license, they have to
yeah.
deactivate.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just the license because I have a Leap license on one of my old computers, but I've got
Mhm.
you got to call Laerdal. They have to deactivate it on the one computer, and then you reinstall it on the other one, and then they activate it. Like
So
it's
that's what I was wondering
complicated.
because I asked them to take that desktop that we had the
Mhm.
Leap on from 18th Street.
It
And I
would be the
said,
easiest.
okay, I will let them know that because he's like, well, we can just leave that computer there and I'll install it on a new one. Do you know how to do that? Okay, I will let IT
Yeah.
know. I'll put in a ticket and just say your best bet is going to be
Take the whole
transfer the
computer.
computer. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, because like I said, our sim man, our old sim man that really doesn't work anymore. He was running off one of those really old ThinkPads. I was like, cool, I'll just download because like you can download the software on any computer without a problem. The problem is the license. The
Got
license to activate the license. So you can't, it's not, you can't just have the number
it. Okay.
and put it in.
You
And
have
it's
to buy,
probably,
you have
it's,
to buy.
yes, because you have to, you only get one computer per license.
Mhm.
So they are
Got
very strict with that one versus like our Gamard ones. That is honestly the one thing I do like about the Gamard mannequins versus it doesn't matter. I can have the software and that mannequin attached to like 50 computers. We bought the mannequin. We have the like so that does make that
You're
part
lucky.
easier. However, I did want to get the Leap license because I think I can run my ANs that run off of their link boxes in the lab off of that license all together at the same time versus the sim pads. So,
Man,
but yes,
complicated.
we need IT sim people.
Yes, that
Mhm.
is, I think that's one of the things that they don't really understand. They said, does your program rely on IT or is there specialized knowledge? I'm like, yes, just a bit.
Mhm.
We need specialized knowledge.
Well, and it's not just so some of the IT are really great, but we also need a IT sim person because even like I have IT support. However, they know nothing, like a regular IT person knows nothing about any of our sim stuff. They don't understand the mannequins, they don't understand the the software, any of it. So thankfully my IT just does what I want them to do.
And
Yeah,
that's
our
kind of
IT. Oh, sorry, what?
That's okay. That's kind of what happened with us, where our I don't know if I call him a director or manager of the IT department.
Mhm.
He got very involved. He made the mistake of coming to a meeting with our whole staff one time, and we all had comments, we all had responses to share with him. And he like delved in, and he's now our best friend.
Mhm.
But it took some time for him to like really get it, that it's a very specialized, different, it's not just IT, it's more. And they need to understand how it all it's interconnected.
Mhm.
And now he's our best buddy.
Mhm.
So, and we have our block one instructor to thank for that. So,
Yeah, our we had two people, one of them transferred, and then the one that they just laid off, he knew our sim capture, he knew Leap,
Nice.
he had
Yeah.
regularly
He's a
conferred with
unicorn.
Laerdal. Like it was just insane. He knew everything, and I'm so pissed.
I'm pissed for you. That is horrible because that
mhm.
is a unicorn right there. That is the one you want to keep because he's
And
the
then
vocal one.
I know, so when I put in the ticket to IT and it's now district, I was like, well, Marcus was the one that would knew everything.
Call
So I said,
Marcus at home.
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does like it does create a problem for my faculty because they don't even know who to call anymore. Because yes, it's an IT, like a lot of our stuff is IT, but IT doesn't know half of the stuff. So they almost just default to calling me.
And when you need,
I'm like, which computer? I'm like, that's the school's computer.
right.
Call Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
when you need help then.
Yeah.
And you've got a classroom full of students sitting there and they
Mhm.
need you to be able to respond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marcus
This,
would come over to 18th Street. If I was having like a SIM capture issue and I called him, he was over at 18th
right.
Street from 40th Street in like 15 minutes. Like he prioritized us when we were having an issue. So I'm really disappointed that he left. And I just don't know how this whole, because he was also the one that reviewed our SIM capture install when Laerdal was in site on site.
Yeah.
So it was him that was reviewing how it was going to be installed, and then they laid off all of our IT. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they try to get this install for SIM capture with this new district IT and Laerdal, because they were not here for that walkthrough.
It will be.
Well, it sounds like we have an opportunity to put something together to say we need a district-wide simulation IT team. I mean, really, I think simulation in general is going to be the wave of the future for healthcare so much. And we're all just struggling on our own with our little silos. It would be great if we could build a team.
Hmm.
And this committee is amazing. The SIM committee. I feel like if anybody can do it, this committee can do it.
We just got to figure out the right buttons. That's
Hmm.
the problem.
For
Right?
yeah, for the biomedical, Corinne, like you had been saying, and then hopefully like someone at least IT, even if they can't go everywhere, they could at least offer the information to the other people, and that would actually be really, really helpful.
It would
So
be super helpful. And the only, like, I feel like we need the data. We need the data, which unfortunately, to get the data that we need to really truly be able to like get in front of, because really it's the finance people to get them to really go, hello, we need so much data. And the only way I can figure out to get it is for all of us to have like we have a link and it's a time study. It's a time study. It's a like a a fiscal thing that we're running for a year in the way that we currently are to be able to then put together with like a, hey, this is how much it actually costs to train somebody that could do these things that we're paying all of these other people for.
true.
But unfortunately, to do that, that's extra work on all of us.
I wonder if we could get it from other schools that have done it.
I've asked a few people when I've been at these conferences, and that doesn't sound like everyone has that. I'm gonna keep pulling out and reaching, but the one thing I would say, especially with like the biomedical, because I know a few of us have actually had some of that. If you have put in a ticket or had somebody come out and work on anything, if you can send that to me and how much you spent, I can start putting a spreadsheet together. Because I think that's going to be a huge one for us. I'm going to try to get some more details from like Desert Medical about how things have to actually be charged
Yeah.
and how charges change because I actually had a little bit of a problem. So I used my Pro card to pay for
Oh,
my biomed guy to fix my beds and then got in trouble.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a PO because it's a
I'm like,
COI.
I'm like, he doesn't even know how much it's going to cost until he gets out here.
Right.
And the only reason I know is because, I mean, I do the ordering because I'm lab and sim. So
Yeah.
I do all the ordering and I had a lot of guidance on it from, admin. But
Yeah.
our sim coordinator, Diana, for 40th Street, I mean, this is not typically something that sim coordinators do,
No,
is, putting in the POs and getting the certificate of insurance. And it's just not the standard for this role.
no. Well, and it's an insane, like all the different things. And I was like, what? And I laughed at her. If you send it out, I'm like, you want to send the bed out? You know how much it costs to get the bed down the thing and then send it out to the service? Okay.
Yeah, that's it's really difficult when you're trying to do that
Yeah.
servicing on site. It gets
Mhm.
very complicated, and I I hope you didn't get in a lot of trouble because that would be something that they could not reasonably expect you to
No,
know.
it was it was like thankfully it was kind of just I had to fill out the forms or whatever and it was a more of a
Hand slap.
don't do it again. You have to
Yeah.
send it to all these people. But I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, and then okay, fine. It's in the thing. I'm like, it's been a few years since I went to training, and honestly, I don't think that was very well explained.
Right.
Like, and
It's
it's
like
not
no good
something
deed
I
goes
think
unpunished.
about
Mhm.
because, well, you can't like get the bed out of the building. Like, it's not like I could call and be like, hey, can I send you this bed to look at? I need to know if I can actually fix it or not because I can't figure it out. So, but I feel like it's things like that, and even just the amount of because we have dollars, right? So we had him out, so I can say it actually was this much. I almost want to have him quote out what it would cost to repair a coupler. I probably should, because that's something that we've been doing on our own. That if we had a trained biomed person, they could come do on the bed in like an hour that
Yeah.
extends these beds. And FYI, in case anyone has any of these Hillrom beds, the Care Assist or any of those, with the electronic footboard at the end, if your footboard goes out or your any of the electronics go out, we're hosed. They are no longer making any of those parts for those beds.
Great.
Yeah, any of these beds that were made in the 80s, as soon as the electronics go out, there is nothing we can do. They will have to be fully replaced. They do still make some of the mechanical parts. So like the couplers and stuff we can still get, but the rest of it. So most of us, and what I realized is I'm probably looking at needing to have to replace almost every bed that I have in probably the next 10 years because they're old. And the reality is I know eventually the electronics are all going to start going out.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, that was one thing he told me when he came out. These beds, they no longer can get any of the electronics.
Fabulous.
hmm That was the thing I wanted to make sure and let everyone know because I'm like, I know we've not been, most of us have been getting mannequins and things, not new beds.
I went
Yeah,
to
and
go ahead, Carolyn.
did you, so they said that on our Sim Pad Plus for nursing ands, our network that we use is ad hoc, and they said that we will not be able to use that.
Nope.
So I have a few concerns about that. I don't know how that's gonna to play out. So
What you can do, Carolyn, because I already had them switch it off. IT can make you a Wi-Fi network that is isolated that you can put them on.
yeah, they said like we have our own, but I thought that was what the ad hoc one was. I thought the
Mm-mm.
oh, okay. So we do have a
No.
dedicated one. It's a special Wi-Fi for just the health sciences
Mhm.
for us to use our simulation
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah. So you can add them on there. The other thing you're also going to need to ask them two questions. One, how many IP addresses do you have? How many are currently being used? Something I didn't know until we did it. You need two IP addresses available for every mannequin. One for the link box, one for the SIM pad. So I had to have them increase our IP addresses
Okay.
so that they wouldn't pop off on that particular
Okay.
network.
All right. I'll let them know that because I had just I had some issue with my nursing and sim pads, and
Had to
Marcus
get
came
them.
in and fixed it for me. And that he said that, ad hoc is no longer going to be supported. So he was working on getting that kind of moved over. But then,
Yeah, so that's what they need
Good
to
luck.
do. They just need to give you the password to that Wi-Fi or create another one if they don't want to share the big one so that you have the password because you will need it because they do still pop off that Wi-Fi every once in a while and you have to re-put the password in.
okay. So request the password for like me and Diana, the coordinators that are, okay, perfect.
Yep. So, and then if they don't want to give you that one, then you need your own for just the mannequins that you can have the password for.
I was going to say I went to a Western State Simulation Alliance conference last November, and one of the things that they talked about was they're creating a repository for equipment that they're no longer using, but other schools might want. So,
Mhm.
like the electronic stuff that we can't get.
Yeah.
I don't know. And by the way, Western Simulation, the states, there's seven of them. We're connected. We should be trying to get into their alliance because
Hmm.
they were an amazing group of people. And it was a small conference, maybe 150 people.
Do
Best
they,
conference.
so do they
Western
have,
States. What's that?
like, so do we have the opportunity to maybe have an Arizona branch?
I asked about that and they said we have our own. And so another girl and I had gone from Mesa and we
Mhm.
were looking and we found an Arizona thing, but the website was updated in 2013. So I'm like, that's
It's
cool.
probably the Arizona Sim whatever. I have done things with them in the past. They usually do a conference. The last time I did anything though, it sounded like their board was maybe not as active, but at that time they said they weren't actually attached to anybody.
Okay.
So
Because it would be
I'll look
great
and
if we
see.
could. And they said that they would welcome our membership as a state.
That would be great.
It would be amazing. I mean, I
Mhm.
will go to all their conferences that I can from now on.
Okay.
It was a great
The
conference.
Western Sim Alliance one?
Yeah, I think Yeah, it's WSSA.
WSSA. Let me make a note. I want to look into that
Yeah, it's amazing.
one.
I will go to that over the national any day because those people are go-getters.
That's awesome. I love that. She's gonna get this just because. Okay, fabulous. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyone else had anything weird come up? And is there a group discount for that conference? It should be coming up again, right? Maybe we should all go.
We should all go.
We should all go and call it team bonding. You all have to let all of us
I
go.
feel like
Fine.
I feel like it was only $150 or something.
That
Oh,
is
wow.
It was a
really?
2-day conference in San Diego, so we just drove over, which
Mhm.
by the way, don't drive if you don't have to because parking was 40 bucks a night or
Oh,
60.
Mm,
gosh.
Whatever it was ridiculous.
cool.
And I no longer expense anything because I value my sanity. So I
Yep.
just write it off on my taxes now.
Mm,
So that was a little bit of a wow when I got there, but yeah.
nice.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'll go. I'm totally going every time I see one of their conferences.
Oh, that would be fabulous. I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah.
Mm, I love the discussion.
Marisa, are you still on?
Yeah.
See, I can
She's
see
just
your
the
name.
last one that talked.
Oh,
Yes.
hmm
so anything new as far as what you've been doing with
Um,
Mike?
I think no, we've got an upgrade going on our SimMeta Central. We're upgrading them to Windows 10, I believe it is, so that it's compatible now. And we can update our patient monitor so that they all can be compatible and run off that off the Leap and get everything upgraded. We did have sim capture revamped a little bit. We now have the paging system and the pillow speakers in our
Mhm.
sim rooms. So that's kind of our biggest update that we've had in our lab area.
High fidelity, yeah.
Very nice. I am gonna have a demo with a AI pillow speaker,
And AI, what was it?
like a speaker that you can put next to the mannequin that can be
Oh,
programmed with AI that will talk.
wow.
They can have a conversation
Oh, so it'll
with the mannequin.
respond
It'll
like
respond.
a
It can be used with any
Alexa.
So it's
mannequin
like
that
a
you can think.
standardized
Yeah.
patient-ish.
Uh-huh.
That's
Wow.
very
I got
cool.
an email. I don't even remember how I ended up getting the email, but I was like, oh my God, it's a new thing. So
Oh, please
See,
share.
I'm gonna
I
yeah.
was
see if I
gonna
can
say,
get him
send
to
that
give us
over.
a demo maybe or a trial couple. So, but I just sent for the request for the demo to get a meeting with him. And I was like, that would be amazing.
Yes. Please share when you have that information.
Yes,
Mhm.
I will. Because yeah, I was like, how do we do more Sims with less of us? Because none of us are getting multiplied. I don't foresee us getting more budget. Like the
Right.
biggest issue is that patient needs to be able to respond.
Hmm.
I can turn the mannequin on and have things so that there's at least an initial finding that they have to find and then come back and discuss. But if the patient doesn't respond, even to say their name,
Was there any update on the moulage class? I know you were trying to set
Mhm.
something up. Is there any update on that?
So I haven't gotten a response yet. So I don't know if it ended up going to like their district. So I'm gonna go down there and try to talk to him. Either way, I can do it.
To Reynolds
I
or
can run,
to,
yeah, to
yeah.
Reynolds. Like I can run I've done enough of them now on site that I feel comfortable enough to be able to run a class for us and walk people through a basic wound and how do you set up the stuff and what do you need to be able to do that. I'm just really trying to figure out a way to get free
It's the stuff.
material
Yeah. Yeah.
um, with that. So,
Okay.
because that's hands-on is the funnest way to do that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And they usually, I think I mentioned before, they usually at Halloween, around
Mhm.
Halloween, that's their time where they always have a class at that
Oh, they
at
do all
Reynolds.
kinds of them. There's
Uh-huh.
actually one I just looked in June at Reynolds. That's at one of the hands-on seminars. That is a brush on mold making.
Hmm.
So I think I'm gonna try to go to that. I'm like, because I've thought about it a few times. I'm like, hell, it would be really nice to be able to make another like foot or a something to put on top of the foot, but I need the foot without
Mhm.
putting it on the foot. So it'd be nice to make a mold of the foot,
Mhm.
and then you can make a foot to make your wounds on versus trying to make the wound on the foot and then make the mold on the foot that you don't have access to that you're going to accidentally mess up. So, yeah. So we're working on that one. I think I'm just going to end up picking a few dates so we can get something out. And then the question will be whether or not I can get some free materials or if I'm going to have to figure out a way to charge a little bit to offset the materials
So, what is the shelf life like on those products?
on the
Because
big bucket.
we have bottles
Mm-hmm.
of stuff that I was using, and
Mm-hmm.
now they're all outdated. I'm sure they're more than a year old.
That might
Um,
work still. It might just take a little bit
okay.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been just long enough since
Yeah.
I did it all to
Mm-hmm.
remember. And we were talking about a couple different things, just making glass
Mm-hmm.
and,
Like the fake
rubber
glass and
glass and all
stuff.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had this conversation the other day, and it's like I don't remember like what the mixture was
Mm-hmm.
anymore. I suspect we have it,
Yeah.
but
It's probably on the bottle and stuff too.
and on the website. I know,
Uh-huh.
Marisa,
Yeah.
you were
There's
gonna
a
look
lot
on the
of
website.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
they do have a lot of the stuff on the
yeah.
website too.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's just those kinds of things. And I know
Mm-hmm.
we've got a bunch of
Yeah.
old product, but
Mm-hmm.
we might be able to
Mm-hmm.
play with it.
We
And
could
I made a
always try a
cast.
couple.
I made a mold cast one
Mm-hmm.
time, and now I can't even remember how to do that.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
the wound plates are fun.
Mhm,
Those are so much fun to make. I
mhm.
have a few of them.
You have to do like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd like to be able to, so that's really kind of my goal for that course, like the mini course, is that we can actually be able to walk them through like making a little mini mold plate and then making their wound. Because those are some of the things I know have helped
And those are
so
things you
much.
can use over and
You
over and
can use
over
them over and
again.
over and
Yeah.
over again. And that the wound plate's nice because once you have your wound plate, in 2 semesters when the faculty have been a little too rough with it or they ripped it, okay, fine.
Hmm.
Pull the plate out,
Hmm.
recast,
Yeah.
and then you can make some more.
Yeah.
So those are cool. And then I have a couple of the wounds that I made with my 3D printed
Oh, cool.
thing. So I 3D printed a
What do you
burn,
what do you use to stick the wounds to the mannequins?
nothing.
So it's like oh, you just sticks
If
right on.
Yeah,
it's thin
it
enough,
depends. Well, it does depend on the mannequin, but for the most part, all the wounds I've made so far, they're just silicone. So you can actually stick them directly to a human skin.
Okay.
And then I can just lay them on top of the mannequin. Now, most of my patients, they're not moving around. Like if we were doing like a trauma sim or something where I was going to need to have them start moving them around, then they do have a product that you can use to tack it
Okay.
to the
mhm.
mannequin, and they have one that you can use to tack it to say like your SP if you needed to.
Okay.
Hmm. Yep. Oh,
Thanks.
students always come first. Thank you, Marcel. So, but yeah, so there are some stuff with that. But yeah, for the most part, I don't have to because it's, they're just the thing. So they're gonna put the sternal incision on, or we've got a couple OB ones where we've got a C-section. So they just lay the incision staple wound that I made onto the mannequin, and it sticks. And if you make it translucent enough, it looks really good on all of them. I actually made one with like the peachy color, and I was like, oh, but I have dark skin mannequins. Dang it. I need to make some dark skin ones. And then went in and stuck it on her. And I was like, oh, never mind. That looks pretty good. It actually looked better on the dark skin one than it did on the light one. So they're fun. But yeah, they do make setup and set up subsequent semesters so much easier.
We used to do our disaster scenario, and our block 2 students were our victims.
Oh, nice.
And so I just would let them keep them.
Yeah.
When we and a lot of times if we did reuse them, they break down so
Yeah.
fast,
Well,
especially if you do them
you've been
really thin. And
yeah, they can be.
So
Mhm.
we lost a lot of things that way,
Mhm.
but yeah.
So yeah, but once you have the mold plate, it's
Mhm.
super easy to remake them if you have to. So yeah, that's the only reason I don't have any other update on that. So I'm gonna go down and try to catch him in person again. Be like, hey, remember me? I've come to a few of these. I have a question. So
Yeah, and Marissa, I'm hoping that you and Casey could attend the moulage class.
it'll be good.
So
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very interested in the class.
yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, it's just
Well, and I have that, and then I did discovered fake tattoos on Tegaderm. So that one's
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
you can buy that on Amazon.
you can buy everything on Amazon.
You actually can. I did get my big buckets of resin, I think, off of the Amazon, but yeah. So there's a few things I'd like to be able to share, and then make sure everyone's got some hands-on time with, because it is fun. That's some of the fun part of what we do.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, if anyone else has anything, we can talk, or we can have gift of time. I'm free with either. I appreciate everyone and all the conversation and input and insight to everything. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. And we do have some ability to push here, hopefully soon, for some of these things.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for getting all of this together. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. You're good. I will again post the transcript and the recording and everything to that rolling agenda thing that we have too as well. So it'll all be there for everybody. All right. Have a great day, guys. Thank
You
you
too.
so much.
Bye. Worked out perfect. The block 4 is finishing up, and that's my ride.
Oh, fabulous. There we go.